I did want to ask you this. All right, so we want to kind of spin it to Trey Lance, and again, I think we both agree if Brock Purdy was healthy, he 100% start week 1. Right now, I still lean towards him start week 1. You think he starts on the PUP list, but because he kind of threw it out there that there's a chance that he maybe misses the season. Hypothetically speaking, guys, if he does miss the full season and Trey Lance does play well, right? He plays well. You go to the playoffs, you win a playoff game, whatever, right? Like, plays well. What then next offseason? And I'm not like I don't like to create these wild narratives or, hypothetical situations, but this is something that potentially, like, really can happen. You invested a lot in him. I'm pretty sure the coach is like, hey, we would love for Trey Lance to be the guy. Like, we would love for him to be that, but hey, we like what Brock has given us already. All right, but now if Brock is out for a full year, which again, we don't think can happen, but if it does, and Trey plays well, what the hell then? Because it's already kind of been a circus around the quarterback situation. And then next year, is it another camp battle? Or, do you eventually pick up Trey Lance's fifth-year option? Like, how much chaos will that bring to this team?
It's always going to be chaos, Crock, until we have the locked-in franchise guy. Like, right? It's until there's the guy that you can set your watch to every April 18th, like how the Chiefs have, like how the Cowboys have, like how the Philadelphia Eagles now have, right? Like, it's just, this is our guy. We don't have to worry about that. These questions are always going to persist. So when it comes to this, if the hypothetical thing comes to pass, which I hope it doesn't, that Brock Purdy doesn't play, and Trey Lance plays well, I want to make sure that I say this before someone else does. Don't tell me that people can't lose their job because of injuries, because Trey Lance seems to have certainly lost his job because of injury. And it's happened multiple times at the quarterback position over and over. So if Trey Lance is showing that ability that they banked on, that they moved heaven and earth for to move to the third pick, and he's playing well going into the season, and the optimism around Trey Lance is we're only seeing the little bit of it and we still have more to grow, then it's at worst going to be a camp battle. If not, just straight up, we're rolling with Trey and Brock Purdy's going to have to be the backup. So the whole injury thing throws a monkey wrench into this because quarterbacks have lost their job to injuries. It happens. Alex Smith lost it to Cap. Trey lost it to Brock. And Brock, if that happens, he could lose it right back to Trey. And I also think that Kyle Shanahan's going to stick with whatever's working at that point. He won't rock the boat if you're winning games. If you're winning games and you're in the playoffs, I don't think you rock the boat and you make a move, because now you're banking on the young man being right back at the level that he was 2 years before, taking the entire year off. And that's not something, that's more of an uncertainty than it is just a feeling of optimism around him. So, yeah, it's always going to be chaos like this, Croc, until this quarterback position gets nailed down, man, always.
It's actually good for content, but it is kind of annoying with the conversations that we end up having. But I'm going to now go to something else you said, right? And in your scenario, Brock Purdy starts off on the PUP list, which I do think that's a realistic thing that could happen. Again, I put it at 60-40 that he starts week 1 and he's the guy that's out there. But there's a 40% chance in my mind that Brock Purdy starts on the PUP list. And that would give Trey Lance, how many weeks? 4 to 6 weeks? How many weeks do you have to sit out?
4 at least. 4.
All right.
Yeah, or like the PUP can be, I think they have the short time IR. I'm not certain with how that works. Let's just say, let's cap it at 4 the most.
All right. So let's say 4 games. What would Trey Lance have to do in those 4 games to start for the rest of the season and not have to look over his shoulder? Or do you think he'll always have to look over his shoulder, even if he is starter?
I think he'd have to be 3-1 or 4-0. And this was something, again, that I wrote about on Niners Nation as well, too, because Mike Clay from ESPN, right? Crock?
Yeah.
So Mike Clay, he does his season-long projections, and he has Trey Lance starting 3 games at the start of the season and Brock Purdy taking over for the other 14. So I'll throw this hypothetical at you, Crock. It's a 3-game sample size, right? Not 4. Here's Trey Lance's stats according to Mike Clay's projection. He's 60 for 92. That's a 65.2% completion percentage, 690 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks, 106 rushing yards, and a touchdown on 24 rushes in 3 games. Those numbers represent a jump, right, in Trey Lance, because those are better completion numbers than last year, even though it was just a game and a quarter. But you and I know, Croc, stats can be inflated. You throw a screen pass and Christian McCaffrey takes it 95 yards. You get credited with a 95-yard pass play, right? Sure, you have to have the timing down, But I think the eye test above all is always going to be what's the real gauge of where Trey Lance is at, not any statistical number, and wins. Because there's a world where Trey Lance plays well and the 49ers lose games. There's a world where Trey Lance plays poor and the 49ers win games. So it's always going to come down to, how does he look? Is he growing? Is he showing you steps? Not any statistical number. The wins are going to matter, but how are you getting the wins? How do you look? Are you getting smoother in the passing game? Are you getting down and not taking such big hits when you're running? Do you look smoother running? Do you look like you're taking jumps? And I think, again, if the 49ers are rolling, they're 3-1, 4-0, whatever in the scenario, and you're seeing all those things, I find it hard that Kyle Shanahan is going to have it back, but he's going to have to show all of those things in those games.
Right. And he doesn't just have those regular season games. He's going to have to, offseason OTAs that kind of start to prove, his worth to his teammates, because he got to win over the teammates as well right now, because clearly Brock Purdy kind of has them in his hand. And then you have to continue to go out there, compete in training camp, do well. Then you got the preseason games. You got to come out there, look sharp. And then if he rolls it to the season, I think there will be a lot of confidence that he can win those games. And if he does indeed go 3-1 or 4-0, it'll get a little interesting in your scenario, of course.
Mm-hmm.